This is an overview of my 1972 Chrysler Valiant Regal with a Formula S package. In the United States, this would have been the 1971 Dodge Dart, of which the Swinger would be the two-door model. But yes, here in South Africa and Namibia, they were produced under the Chrysler Valiant name. As the car stands here, it is original and numbers matching with its original 225 slant 6 and torque flight 904. The slant 6 has been rebuilt twice and the 904 once or twice as well, but I'll give some details on why that is in a bit. It does not have original paint, but it is, however, the original color. The car has been resprayed by Chrysler Motors in South Africa in I think 1985 or so. So as you can see, it has a bit more glitter than it would have had from the factory. I've had the front end resprayed as well. It was really beaten up, but I had to color match it because this wasn't the standard color code. It came out pretty alright. The rest of the car still has to be resprayed, but it is not a critical thing because as the car stands here, structurally and mechanically, it is perfect. It is absolutely no rust, except for underneath the frame rails is a bit beaten up by rocks. I am the third owner. The first owner drove this car between his farm and the nearest town for 30 years, so the gravel road has really taken its toll. The suspension has been refreshed. I will show it once we put it on the lift. The only stuff I added was this wheel arch trims. They were missing, so the chrome trims were damaged and gone. I put back the original steel rims with hubcaps. This is, however, not the correct hubcaps. The South African models for this car specifically had a similar looking hubcap, but it said in the center power disc, and these bits were completely black. But I feel these ones look pretty good as well. All the chrome trim is there and in good condition. The only stuff I added additionally is these ones on the hood. This model did not come out with this chrome trim. But I got it from a Dodge Dart Demon. They have the same, just a Dodge Demon, but the Chrysler Valiant Chargers also have the same trim, and it fits, and I liked how it looked. I also added these hood pins. It had hood pins, but it had a really bad plate, so I made this plate out of aluminium and replaced it. Other than that work that I have done, I've repainted this plastic front grille as well. It was really beaten up. I had to find replacement lenses because they were all cracked and busted. The reason I have crosses taped over my headlights is not just because it looks cool, but my headlight switch is, shorting out. It keeps burning out the bright and dim switch. So for the moment I only have brights, and that's why it's taped out so that it doesn't blind people I'm driving past. The vinyl top itself is also original. It has seen better days. It's starting to blister and have some rust, so this is kind of critical and needs to be replaced as soon as I can. The interior, however, is in a fantastic condition. Original door cards, not torn, not battered. The only stuff I did to this is replace the chrome vinyl that wraps this piece. Underneath it is a purple silicone plastic type thing, not sure what that is. The dash is in a really good condition. The dash pad on top is not cracked. Everything else is there. The FM radio still works. And this is one thing I like a lot about this car. My dash is in Afrikaans, and nowadays you can only see them in English. Really glad about this piece, still in a really good condition. The steering wheel, the only thing I replaced was this little gear indicator. The previous one was scratched up, dinged up, couldn't see the gears anymore. The front seat has been redone with upholstery. Over the years it has probably been sat through, so this has been redone. The seat belts, the original seat belts were missing, so I replaced it with this aviation style seat belts. They look pretty nice. The upholstery in the back is also in a really good condition. again, the door cards are pristine. It has the original upholstery for the back seat. Really happy about this. And the headliner is also in a really good condition. The only thing that's not is the sun visors, but those can be redone. But other than that, really good. Underneath, also really good. This is a Mexican blanket. One of my part suppliers in South Africa, Tertius van Niekerk, sent me. Really, really nice. One of my favorite accents to the car. Other than that, there's not much else to show you, so let's get into the engine. Right, so here's the engine. This is on rebuild number 2. The reason for that is because I had someone rebuild it for me the first time, but due to a faulty thermostat, the engine has overheated with about 100 kilometers on it, and that devastated the engine, of course. It pushed the gudgeon pin out in cylinder 6 and tore a crevice into it, basically. So cylinder 6 had to be re-sleeved, the rest all 30 thousandths overbore. Other than that, it is stock. Actually, no. I have a cam in here, comp cams 264 duration with 44 thousandths lift, if I remember correctly. Not too, how can I say this, knowledgeable on camshaft stuff, so don't quote me on that. But I did rebuild this engine myself. So far it has 3,000 kilometers on the clock. This has been my first engine rebuild, and it's not perfect. There's a lot of stuff I would do differently next time. For now, it has a Stromberg 2-barrel, which came from a Ford Ranchero. I'm currently still rebuilding the carburetor, which would go back once it is done, but for now, the Stromberg 2-barrel does pretty well. I just made it a smaller jet size. I moved the oil filter from the valve cover to the side because it's just a pain when you want to do valve flash and the oil filter is still there, or if you want to do an oil change and it's just oil all over your engine. This is a bit easier to clean. As you probably saw in the interior, I have an oil pressure gauge. I ran a T from this housing so that I can still have my original oil pressure light, but here goes the oil pressure line in through to that gauge. The reason I did that is because the oil pressure lines kept popping off and bursting for some reason. No, I did not put them on the wrong way. It's just like probably bad hoses, and I just didn't have luck with it. So I decided to crimp some hydraulic hose for it, so it will never pop off or anything. I think other than that, what I did for the engine is stiffer valve springs for the bigger cam, but other than that, that's about it. The transmission has been rebuilt. Shortly after I redid the engine, my transmission had an overheating issue and it ate itself up. I drove to our coastal town called Swakopmund, which is about 360 kilometers away. So 720 kilometers round trip, and it completely shot the transmission. So that has been redone. I added a cooler to it with some hydraulic hose running through, and that has basically solved the problem. So other than that, no more issues with it. I'll quickly start it up so that you can hear the sound, and then after that we can quickly put the car on the lift and I'll show you the work done underneath. Right, so here's the engine running. It is a bit rough at the moment. It needs to be tuned again because our climate's a bit different in the winter and the engine just behaves differently in the winter. I think it has a bit of a valve tick. Maybe one of the lifters or camshaft lobes got damaged when that oil lines shot off. I'll have a look at that later, but it's not that bad, so it's not that much of an issue at the moment. I also had a lot of issues with fuel pumps burning out, so I added this little glass gauge so that I can quickly diagnose all my fuel issues. It runs well. It has I think 2.5 or 3 inch stainless exhaust that runs all the way to the back, but other than that, really does run well. The stainless exhaust I just showed you also sounds absolutely fantastic. I unfortunately have no one to rev it for you guys, but it is really nice. So yeah, that's about it. I'll quickly get the car on the lift and then show you the work done underneath. Right, so now that the car's on the lift, I can quickly show you underneath. Just a disclaimer, it's very dirty. This is a daily driver after all. On a side note, you probably noticed this yellow goldish plating used everywhere on this car. Now that is known as cadmium plating. It's very popular in the aviation industry. Really good protecting against rust. I just usually sandblast my parts and take it for cadmium plating instead of painting it. It looks nice. Yeah, other than that, all the suspension bushes have been replaced with polyurethane bushes. The leaf springs were a bit, well, flat, can you say. They were really driven through, so I took them to be rolled to get some more tension. Replaced these plastic scratch shims, whatever you want to call them. A few brake lines have been redone. In the rear end, the bearings have been replaced, wheel bearings have been replaced. Brake cylinders for the drum brakes have been replaced. Side shaft seals also replaced. Here you can see the stainless exhaust running to the front. This is not a catalytic converter or anything, it's just like a straight through silencing box, otherwise the car sounds like a rattling tin can. Underneath you can see there's absolutely no rust, no holes. It's just dirty, needs to be painted to be protected. But yeah, oh, also speaking of underneath, here you can see how the frame rails have been beaten in by rocks over the years, and subsequently the previous fuel tank was also absolutely demolished over here. I tried to knock it out and it tore the tank, couldn't salvage it, so I replaced the tank for a new one. In the front we have new tie rod ends, the steering box have been redone, control arms upper and lower got new bushes, etc. Front wheel bearings have been replaced, which reminds me I need to tighten them up a bit. They have a few thousand kilometers on them now. Yeah, I think that's about it. Transmission has been rebuilt by the guys at TCC. Thank you very much for that. But I think that just about covers it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please ask below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. I am not a professional, I do this as a hobby. I don't have a lot of experience, so this is all a learning process for me. I make a lot of mistakes, but at least I learn out of them. So if I did make any mistakes, please feel free to correct me below. But yeah, stay tuned for the next one. Cheers.